Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I'm James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We're, of course, a Blue Wire podcast. Joining me today, we have Fox 40, Sean Cunningham, who's back from Bottle Rock. What's going on, Sean?
Well, yeah, back from Bottle Rock. Dude, it's June 7th. Where have we been?
I tried
It
last
feels
week.
like an
What
eternity
happened?
since we've done this shit. What are we doing?
All right. And, of course, we're joined by Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
I am doing well. Nothing too special on my end.
Never
Nice. Sean, you got a little red. You a little
I'm
red in the
blushing.
nose.
Yeah, I'm blushing.
Oh,
Apparently,
you're
I
blushing?
missed a gun show. I hear about. I don't know what this is.
Oh,
It's complicated.
The last episode we had, Brenden showed up with a sleeveless shirt because he was out at the lake, and I was fine with it. And then we had like
You did.
weird,
Hold on. You did the show from the lake?
well,
Yeah,
not on the
Like,
water.
yeah,
Oh,
there's a house that we were, a little Airbnb we were staying at, but
Yeah,
I figured I'd go full authentic.
must be
Yeah.
nice.
At least I was there,
yo, sick burn. And then of course on that podcast, Brendan's stepmom showed up in the picture a couple of times.
Oh,
like
celebrity she most resembled was.
I don't know. She was wearing a robe and I think a
Oh,
bathing suit.
jeez.
Yeah.
And
At
then
one point, she thought she was sneaking out of the camera, and she was not.
Sean, it was.
These seem like search history.
I
subjects
knew
for people.
something was coming like that.
Yeah, it was a lively podcast. We she came in and then she like dove out of the picture like onto the bed to like get out of the picture,
Sir,
and then
hold on.
she snuck
What
around
did
the
I
corner.
miss?
Then she snuck around the corner and tried to like shut the door, but literally was in
What
the
is
scene
happening?
the whole
True.
time.
It's true.
It was good stuff, wasn't it?
It was.
We should have
Prime content. Prime content.
Prime content. Yeah.
I gotta
Anyway.
go back and check this out.
We're back now. Sean does look like he's blushing and not just red in the face from doing a photo shoot somewhere where he got too much sun.
Yeah, not so much here, right? Like if you've seen Tommy Boy.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
No, it's got a little sun, man. I love this weather. It's hot. It's I as much as I had people looking at me going like, why do you like this weather? Why do you love heat so much? I was like, because you get to go outside and do stuff. Like you're not freezing. I hate rain and wind, and this is where I thrive. I love this weather. Now, granted, I don't want it to be like 100 all the time. Like, give me some upper 80s, low 90s. I'm thriving.
I love the 80s. The 80s are cool. Once it starts hitting 90 and 100, then it's like I've just got to get on the get out on the water. Like I got to avoid this heat. It's too hot. So, okay, let's see. Let's just get rid of the business stuff. If you're watching here on YouTube and you don't mind, could you give us a thumbs up?
Please.
For some reason, when I do it, it gives a thumbs up
Yeah, look at
emoji.
that. You got a bubble.
I got a bubble. I'm not sure. I think it's cool. I'm cool and you are not. Number two, subscribe to the channel. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber to the Kings Beat. All that good stuff. Outside of that, we did not have a pod last week. I don't know what happened. We kept having like
fault.
issues with. It wasn't my fault. I was around. We kept having issues with like lining up and then communication and all that stuff. Either way, we're back. So what's going on, guys? What's happening? How are you?
I am quite well. I mean, it's been busy. This week alone, I've done Lake Tahoe. This is all for work. Santa Clara. And then the week before that, I mean, it's just all these little hop around things, some Niners, some golf stuff, some King stuff mixed in a little bit, but yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of running around and trying to keep up with everything. But outside of that, had a nice vacation. Bottle Rock was fantastic. I keep getting asked about, like everyone knows I feel like the unofficial spokesperson from Bottle Rock who doesn't I don't get anything for it. I literally pay my own money and go. But much again, everyone, oh, I should have gone. That looks so much fun. Blah, blah, blah. I kept a lot of stuff off social media for the most part, but I love the people who are always, count me in for next year. And I'm like, okay, you said that for the past 3 years and then you don't go. You don't realize what a commitment it is. So just go one day. I go all 3 because I'm a maniac, but yeah, go. And we had some Kings there, got to see Domas and Kevin Herter on the culinary stage. It was kind of fun.
Oh, nice. Brenden, you good?
I'm good. I like to think I got a little bit of color, and it doesn't seem to be showing much. But got a little bit of sunlight. I'm not a big heat guy like Sean apparently over here. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything too crazy. I've been embracing the off season. Let me tell you.
Very nice. Yeah, we're so my 16-year-old is he doesn't have his driver's license yet, but he got his boating card.
Oh, boy.
Now I've had to teach him how to actually drive the boat, how to park the boat, how to drive
Which one?
the right way on the boat. He's been driving the big boat. So like
Yacht.
well, no, it's not a yacht. It's a 24-foot pontoon boat, but it's big and it's bulky, and you can't pull tubers, you can't do that stuff. You also have to understand when you're on a small lake that has speedboats, that like if you are following someone on with a tube or skier, if they fall down, those people all take a sharp right turn to go back to pick up their person in the water. So you have to like sort of like figure out the traffic of the lake and stuff, and then how to park a big boat like that. So that's been like our latest thing. We let him go out with 4 of his friends, like out onto the lake, just them take out the big boat. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a fun summer filled with lots and lots and lots of boating. I think because I think it's gonna be a hot one.
No, believe it or not, when I was in SoCal, I did a little movie marathon with my little sister.
I don't believe you.
Watched all of the Insidious movies, which we did go scary movies, but
Okay.
very good, actually. They all connect in creative ways. That was awesome. But yes, I had a movie marathon, believe it or not.
And
I
you stayed
watched
up
almost all of them the first try.
I don't think I believe you. Interesting.
I saw a good movie, by the way.
What'd you see?
Challengers. First of all, I'm going to warn you. It's very adult, but fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. Yeah, I think I would highly recommend it. Revolves around the world of tennis. You got Zendaya as the main
yes, yeah.
actor in the movie, actress, and yeah, it's a very adult movie, so don't go check it out with the children's, but fantastic sports movie, by the way. So
okay,
enjoy it.
Interesting. All right, well, let's get to the latest and greatest of Sacramento Kings news. I know people get upset if you're out there at the 7:45 mark. We're going to talk actual basketball. Since we last reconvened, the Sacramento Kings have agreed. We haven't got an official press release, but agreed to a 3-year contract extension with Mike Brown. It got a little wonky. It got a little all over the place, but in the end, it feels like 3 years, $8.5 million a year, options, their incentives, it can push it up to $10 million a year from what I know. This seems pretty fair. Maybe at the bottom end of the top end of the market, if that makes sense. Would you guys agree with that? And also, like, this seems like what's right. Like having Mike Brown under contract for 3 years seems like what makes perfect sense right now for the Kings and where they are in their build.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the last episode. Like, Mike Budenholzer being 550, Doc Rivers 440. Like, I think it's fair that Mike is in that same range. And the idea of not being able to know quite yet if he is the right guy to take you to that next level, I think that is still TBD at the current point, even if I have faith. I think that this length of contract is the right sort of thing where we were talking about you don't know yet. And this gives you time to find out. I think that it's an appropriate range. It's really kind of, I know it comes off as 3 years, but we're adding money to that first year next year as well, right? So isn't it practically kind of a 2-year deal we're talking about, since the last year never exists for coaches practically, right?
Yeah, it kind of puts him in basically a 5-year deal, like his first 2 that he's already coached,
Right.
then this coming season at 8.5, and then the next 2 seasons at 8.5. So yeah, I think you're probably right. It feels more like a 2-year extension, but maybe renegotiate and extend like what they did with Domas.
But you also get like a immediate raise right away.
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, they could have. It's not like a player one where it's like, well, I'm in my last year of my deal. My extension kicks in next year, and it's mainly because your coach's contracts don't count against your salary cap. So, yeah, he's able to enjoy it right away. I think it's part of a it's really part of an evolution with this team. I mean, it's been well documented that first coach since Adelman to have an extension, and you don't really see this too often. But he's also the first coach since Adelman to get to the playoffs and have winning records. So you reward that, no matter what last season looked like, and you see what the crazy contracts are for coaches. And I say crazy because there's a lot of people that believe this is just the nature of where the league is going, that coaches are now going to be rewarded for this. There's others that believe that this is crazy. Coaches aren't going to get paid this. It's going to fall back down again. Well, I don't necessarily believe that, but I think it's helpful that the Kings got it done before the likes of Tom Thibodeau gets his extension. And you just look at all these coaches who have been extending, and this is kind of the market rate for some of these coaches. And the good news for the Kings is I think they very much look at Mike Brown as saying that they want him as their coach right now, and for the years to come. But they had to be, in a way, smart about it. And of course, if you're Mike Brown's people, you're going to be as aggressive as you can. And we've talked about how there's so many there's only a handful of agents in the coaching ranks, and so you're really doing the future coaches, and you're really kind of doing them a service and trying to get as much as you can. And I think escalators and all these things, and some coaches who don't go public with what they make, it can get gnarly and a little, here's how the sausage is made for a lot of the public. They don't like to see it play out that way. But everybody I've talked to that's close to this, that's around this, I mean, they're all like saying the same thing, which is, no, we all want the same thing, and we all want to be around each other, and it's harmonious. It's just, these are negotiations. I had people all over the place when I was talking to them say, hey, has this gotten crazy? Is this par for the course? Is this anything unique about this? Majority of them are just like, no, this is kind of how it goes. And with players, it's the same way. So it played out in public. Some people may have been a little janky with it, or thought that that this was an ugly scenario, but I can understand that feeling. But I can assure you, everyone I've talked to paints a much different picture in that regard. So glad it's behind everyone, though, right? I mean, you're going to go into, you kind of see how things are, like, you can compare it in a way to what's going on with the Lakers right now. Look at how much is playing out in public right there, and so much information that's out there. And that's just a team trying to find its next head coach, as opposed to trying to reward the coach and keep the coach that they have secure for the next few years.
Yeah, to me, I think it spilled out in like a weird way, but I don't think that it was like too wild and crazy. I think at the end of the day, I know that there wasn't a lot of like confidence that something was going to get done, at least from one side that I know of. And then it did, and then it feels like, even I want to put this out there too. Like, we keep saying that like Mike Budenholzer got a 5-year 50, and the Doc Rivers got a 4-year 40. We don't know what the specifics are of that contract, and it very well could be very similar to what Mike Brown just got. It could be like a $9 million contract that if you make the playoffs, there's an extra 250. If you make the conference finals, there's 250. If you make the finals, there's another 500. We don't know. Like, again, they just get reported this way, and a lot of times the reporting that you'll get from a deal like this comes directly from an agent that gives you the biggest number possible. So that's why you see a variant in what we've heard from Mike Brown's contracts. Like, one person has it as a 3-year, $30 million contract, which is the top end, and another person has it as 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, with sort of these accelerators put in that can bump it up to 10 million. So it's just kind of the way these things go, and I think everyone's moved on. I think everyone's excited to get the season going, and I think everyone is excited to walk into free agency, draft, like trade season that's all about to hit us in like 2 weeks, with a very, very clear vision of who the Kings are moving forward, and that is, it's a Mike Brown led team. and let's go ahead and try to get some pieces that kind of fill out the roster and make some changes that are necessary to make this thing better. And I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So we got to this point. At least that's kind of how I feel.
Can I say one more thing about that real quick? Because I think two things I like to point out. It's not necessarily just this scenario. It kind of fuels a lot of what's to come with the offseason. And I feel like since the draft is next, and people, you all know how I love mock drafts. You look at what gets circulated in terms of reporting and rumor and Twitter sphere and all that kind of stuff. Like, don't take all of that as fact, right? Like, and I think what's tough, especially for us in the media, and what I love, I come from the world of talk radio and I love it. James, you're there right now. Brenden, you work in that realm as well. We have podcasting, we have television, we have digital spaces. They're all kind of under the same umbrella. And what's tough is the speculation of what you might think a team might do, opinions, maybe your opinion, Jade's facts, and whatever. This happens to anybody who consumes this information. You can't take everything you see as fact and then speculate off of that report as fact, right? So just keep that all in mind. Everything that you see out there, and look, you look at your sources, you look at the people that you're consuming information from. By and large, you know who you can go to for trusted material based off of track record and whether they've been right before or wrong before and things like that. And it's a feed the beast mentality. But if you as the consumer are reading everything and taking everything and not you leaving room for, oh, okay, this may not be true, or this part may be speculation or whatever, even when you're consuming it or hearing it, that can fuel a lot of misinformation, or even just stuff that may not actually be true out there. Like you can look at just the Lakers example right now. In terms of JJ Redick, you've got the Athletic who comes out and says the Lakers are, and look at your wording too, by the way. Like, it's not saying that JJ Redick is your next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, although he might be. They say they're zeroing in. There's certainly interest with JJ Redick. And then when you have Adrian Wojnarowski who comes out and says that now they're zeroing in on Dan Hurley, the two-time champion from UConn, that doesn't mean that JJ Redick is out of the picture. And it doesn't mean that JJ Redick never was in the picture, despite ESPN not even recognizing JJ Redick's name in their reporting. So it's very wild. And then when you look at that and go, oh, well, Shams is wrong or Athletic is wrong, it's like, not necessarily, because he never said he's going to be the next head coach. So just look at the wording carefully, and that's using that as an example. You can reflect back on Mike Brown. You can reflect back on, mock drafts, or anybody who's gets crazy out there about, oh, why didn't the Kings move their pick and they end up drafting at 13th? Just be prepared for anything.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. Like, the story I wrote, like, it had one line taken out of context, and then someone put a different title on it, that King's upset with Mike Brown, right? That's not what I said at all. You can go back and read, but that's the problem. People aren't reading things from top to bottom. If anyone here reads the King's Beat, you should understand that I'm usually extremely thorough, very thorough. And I go through just about every single dollar and cent that other people are making, and historical things, and I make a lot of comparisons to different things in the story that I wrote about Mike Brown, whether or not he would get his contract. And even people we know, they just pulled one line and ran with it as if that's what I said, and they just didn't. They skipped over the other 2,000 words that were written. And I think that that's always interesting. But what Sean's saying is that, trust your sources, trust your sources for information. We have to trust our sources that we're getting information from: Sean, Brenden, myself. But we're hoping that the people out there trust us as one of your sources for Kings News. And I think that over the course of my 14 years and over Sean's years and Brendan's years, we've all we've been reliable sources. We're not someone who's doing crazy wild stuff. When we do talk about potential trades and how a player would fit and stuff, it's always under the very clear understanding that we're just discussing a potential trade, and something that, if the Kings were to do this, this is what we think that might look like, right? And unless we report something like very specifically that this is going to happen. And I don't think we miss. Like, we at least try to be responsible and respectful and all that stuff. Brenden?
I like to think that I'm responsible and respectful more often than not. Sean might be a different story sometimes. But depends on the mood. Quick question on the mic thing before we move off of that. What do you guys make of it being so public? I know we were kind of just talking about that a little bit, but does that mean anything to you? Is it weird at all? Is it just par for the course?
I think there were only 2 tweets. Really? One that
Right.
was one very specifically was, I mean, there were 2 stories, and then I wrote something about the dollar figure. We had the one by Slater and by Amick at the beginning, right after the season, where they said, he's looking for 8 figures, $10 to $12 million a year or whatever. We get to the Jake Fisher story, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago now, that was very vague, and they're expected to negotiate around this dollar figure. Not even that a deal was likely or what was going to happen, just that's the figure that they were expected to go around. And then once things got like sort of weird and heated, it became like the Woj that the Kings have table talks with Mike Brown. And then the next tweet is the 3-year, $21 million reasonable or competitive offer tweet. Outside of that, I don't think a lot of it was out there. Like, does that make sense?
Well, and the reason I think you see it play out in public is just because of where the coaching landscape is going, and it's a barometer, for other coaches and for coaches to be compared to others and where they're paid, and guys who you think about last year who extended, the Rick Carlisles of the world and Nick Nurses of the world, and you compare that to where guys are getting paid now, and obviously you see their track record. I use those 2 guys because they've won championship or a championship, but I think it's deliberate when that's done, because it kind of lays a path to compare to others, and certainly when you've got the likes of Tyronn Lue, who ends up setting a market different, or Amani Williams, who sets a market different. Those are 2 teams that go all in on their head coach, so to speak. That's kind of like mid-level money right there in the NBA. So I think it's done deliberately, and it's for those reasons. But like, is it unusual? No, but it's unusual that it's happening all at once. And I think it's the reason that's happening is because we're seeing some pretty unprecedented things when it comes to money going to NBA head coaches.
Yeah, and I think we saw like a weird blow by blow with the Mike Brown thing, but it was over a very short amount of time. I mean, realistically, it happens over the Memorial Day weekend. It's like we're tabling talks. It's like, well, you guys were probably tabling talks anyways because you're all going to get away for the 4-day weekend,
Well,
and then you got right back to it.
Wild. Yeah, that's wild, because like tabling talks are only tabled until they're not, right? Like, it doesn't mean that hey, we'll see you next summer, or let's just go into this final, see you at training camp. Like, it's never like that, and it's just it's an evolution. It's a process, and sometimes you need to walk away with it and get some counsel and clear head, and wait to see what else happens along the coaching landscape. We talk about it so often, how much the day-to-day changes what the NBA looks like. And a lot happened during those few days.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Brenden, I want to come back to you though, as we'll transition, because I think this is kind of like the Mike Brown situation. It's kind of playing out with the Lakers, like Sean was bringing up. And I want to know, like, as someone who hasn't been watching the media angle forever, like Sean and I have, are you like surprised with what you're seeing with not just the Shams tweet was pretty definitive? I mean, I don't have it pulled up, but I could have it pulled up within a matter of seconds. And it was pretty definitive that like that.
Zeroing in.
Yeah, but I mean, the entire tweet was pretty like straightforward. I think I have it. The Los Angeles Lakers are zeroing in on JJ Redick as the front runner, which is again he's adding another qualifier in here for the franchise's next head coach. League and industry sources say,
Right.
and like I mean, for me, that's like some crazy words. But now I literally we're watching like Adrian Wojnarowski like dancing on someone's grave. It feels like every.
Well, what do you have
but-
his? Do you have his tweet there too? Do you have his report there too? And you can compare and contrast what he says about Dan Hurley.
Yeah. So the Dan Hurley thing, let's see. The original, well, I mean, he went on the air and has done like just a lot. Breaking, the Los Angeles Lakers are targeting Connecticut's Dan Hurley become the franchise's new coach and are preparing a massive long-term offer to bring the back-to-back national champion to the NBA, sources tell ESPN.
Yep. So targeting, zeroing in. I mean, these are not saying that they've hired anybody or will be hired as the next head coach. So again, this is just the odd thing to me is just how ESPN is refusing to acknowledge JJ's candidacy as an interest with the Lakers, and that to me seems completely petty.
Sean, like initially, Woj hasn't written anything about JJ at all.
I know.
Like even in the
You
beginning,
work for
but
the same
now
company.
I literally feel like he's like Yosemite Sam, like running around like shooting his pistols, like, woo, are you seeing
nothing's
this?
happened. Nothing's happened yet. And
No,
yeah, you'll have an interview reportedly down in LA. But the money is what's wild here, guys, because both of these gentlemen are incredibly well paid. I mean, we talk about it a lot. Like, I don't know what the motivation would be if I'm JJ Redick to leave this cush assignment that I have, this media darling and superstar, especially coming up with a brand new television contract. Like, to me, the future is so much brighter for him where he's at, doing multiple podcasts, being a part of the A team as an analyst on ESPN and ABC. This guy's making tons of money. And then you look at Dan Hurley, who is, if I read after last year's championship, it was a 6-year deal, right around $30 million. So you're gonna have to pony up. I mean, it's gonna be some big money if you want either one of these guys. And to be honest, Dan Hurley in my mind has much more to lose going to the Lakers, even though I'm sure it's a dream of his to coach in the NBA. You're talking about somebody who legitimately is coaching right now. His dad is a legend in coaching. His brother was a legend in the college basketball landscape as well. And I think both Bobby Hurley and Dan Hurley would love to coach in the NBA, but imagine him having to go back to UConn now. And even in the era of NIL where there's no loyalty in anything in college, especially amongst your coaches at this point, but like how that hurts him in recruiting. Like, oh yeah, your coach doesn't want to be here. You're not going to, he almost bolted for the NBA. Everybody knows he wants to be in the NBA. And to do so as a guy who's already won 2 championships, like, to me, he stands more to lose in the whole, like, because again, JJ Redick, if you remember him as a player, guys, like, I produced radio shows. I would book guests all the time. He'd be a go-to guy every time the opposition would come in because he's so brilliant and he had aspirations of being in the media. This was like his destiny. He wanted to go from playing into being a media darling superstar. And I think that's exactly what he's done. It's no secret I'm a Duke fan. I know JJ a little bit, and I think he's completely in this right space. At no point did I think he'd have any aspirations of being a head coach. And so, I get it. It's the Lakers, and it could be a special circumstance, and you can go check that box, and he can always go back to doing the media stuff.
Brenden, what do you got on this?
I mean, it's just, it's a little weird. It's the job itself comes with some complications, obviously, just being the Lakers and the scrutiny that comes with that, being so in the public eye. What is their roster going to look like next year? Is it going to be the same guys that we're talking about right now? Are they going to make a big splash? And the JJ thing, I'm kind of with Sean. I really think he's great at media. I enjoy the content that he puts out. I think he's very insightful. He just called the finals game yesterday. And also shout out Doris Burke for being the first woman to call a men's finals. But it's a weird situation. I think that the reporting back and forth definitely catches my eye and makes me, want to just wait for it to be done before I really care about any of this, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, the back and forth definitely catches my attention. And I think that JJ's in a good spot. Hurley could be somebody that could make sense, but it's, you got to look at that a little with a grain of salt almost. Like, I'm not sure that Darvin Ham was necessarily a bad coach. It's just a tough situation over there.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm a little counter to you on this, Sean. First of all, I think Hurley's going to get 12 to 15 million bucks a year. Okay. I think that's what the offer is going to come in, and it's going to push the first time NCAA to NBA head coach, like, dollar amount, like, way up, like, first time NBA head coach. It's going to push up what that looks like as, again, Monty Williams pushed up the standard NBA coaching salary. So I think he's going to get a ton of money. I think it'll probably be twice as much as what he's getting, and maybe even more than what he's getting at UConn. And if in 2-3 years it doesn't work out, I think everyone in the league will go, hey, it's just another college coach that came to the NBA and flamed out. We're so used to it, whether it's John Calipari, whether it's Rick Pitino, or it's, name that coach. Even Billy Donovan hasn't really found great success at the NBA level. So you just kind of go, okay, look, he's not Brad Stevens. So he'll go back to the college game. He'll get a top tier, top 10 job, no matter what, going back to the college game, which might be better suited for him because he is a very intense screamer dude. But I think, like, he can get right back into the NCAA. I think with JJ Redick, like, he is a good talker, and he does like to talk about the X's and O's with LeBron, and he comes across as a really smart guy. But if you take a job like the Lakers and you flame out in a year and a half and they have to fire your ass and you don't look like you know what you're doing at all, that puts your media career in jeopardy as well. I don't know that you just walk right out of that and, like, everyone's going to be looking at you like, okay, you're the dude who just, like, literally failed. You just shit the bed with the Lakers in front of everybody. Something fell and broke.
That sounded expensive.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. But
I'm laughing over here, James, because the whole "they can't do teach," that saying, and it's like,
yeah.
I know plenty of dudes who are in the NBA who don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they've made great careers. When they've butchered and absolutely showed their ass on the coaching level.
Bobby Marks doesn't have the greatest track record as a GM, right?
Right.
Who's that?
Right.
Oh,
Bobby Marks.
Yeah, but his career as well, I think Bobby Marks, part of his, who was he attached to?
I think of the Brooklyn trade with Tatum and Brown.
Yeah, but I don't think that was him, was it? I mean,
he was I thought that
there,
was
but
him,
it wasn't Billy Knight. He was just like the assistant GM. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, but he's carved a niche as, like, a salary cap guy, right? Like, that's different than being like a standard NBA, like, talking head. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what happens here. I just find it really, really wild and entertaining that we have one guy who is gloating, like, absolutely walking out and doing one interview after another on the first night of the finals, laying it out there that this was always the plan. There was never another plan. This was always their focus, and this is what they're doing. I don't care what anyone else might have said, which I have no idea what might have been said. I don't know. Like, I think it's a little wild. It's fun, though, right?
It's fun. Well, and this is the season behind the season, and this is, some people look forward to this more so than the actual, of games and competition. That this is stuff that people. There are some people that absolutely get their most entertainment value out of the NBA in the offseason, and it's because of stuff like this. So, yeah, it's gonna it'll only ramp up during the draft, and then free agency right after that, and yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun times ahead.
Away we go. You bring up the draft. I know, Sean, you had like maybe what was it, 6 or 7 names of players that the Kings met at the combine, including Alex Sarr and Klingon. Who else did you have on that list?
It was Cody Williams, Jacoby Walter, Dalton Connect, Donovan Klingon. Sorry, you mentioned Jared McCain, Sacramento Zone.
Oh, okay. What do you make of that? That they interviewed 2 of what could be the top 5 picks, clearly. Another guy, Dalton Connect, may make it to number 13, but probably not. Cody Williams, what do you say, McCain, and who's the other one that you threw
Jacoby
out?
Walter.
Oh, Jacoby Walter, all around 13 to 20 area in the draft, as far as where they might go. What did you make of that list that you got?
I mean, to me, it's just due diligence. I mean, this draft is completely open. You know, it's no secret that they're a team that can probably makes more sense for them to move the pick. So, you know, there's scenarios where you move the pick, drop back, move up. I mean, I think you have to be kind of ready for anything. So if you're in the combine and you're spending a week's worth of time down there, in my mind, you shoot for the stars. You get the ones you're most curious about in this draft. And certainly you're not limited to just maybe what's projected to come your way or what's happens to hover around your 13th pick. But the reality is, if you're sitting at 13 and you want to bring in the likes of Alex Sarr as a in your own town as an individual workout, well, that's probably not going to happen, right? Unless you move up. So that's your time, in my mind, just to meet with the ones that you have most curiosity about, the most intrigue about, and the ones you feel are among the ones that you would target. So it doesn't mean that they would target them, but to me, it just maybe who you have the most intrigue and curiosity about, and things that you're worth putting some face time with, really. So, yeah, I like the fact that you got to do your due diligence, and that's why you try to meet with as many people as you can and schedule FaceTime with people. And again, this draft could be pretty wide open. So,
I agree. Brenden, now we heard from you this week that the Kings have brought in a handful of prospects. What do you got for prospects, and sort of what are your thoughts on who those guys are in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, they had 4 guys in on Wednesday. Dylan Jones from Weber State, Trey Alexander from Creighton, Carlton Carrington, great name, by the way, Bub Carrington from Pitt, and Keyshawn George from Miami. You know, the 2 latter guys, Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George, definitely on the younger end and more, I guess I would say, raw prospects that will need some fine tuning. And I can't help but just, anytime I see those guys, think this just isn't a Monty McNair type of player. They really have not taken those type of guys. But they have intriguing stuff. You know, Keyshawn George almost feels a little like Joe Ingles-ish to me, with some high IQ stuff in there. Bub Carrington, a lot of creation, and just shoots the ball extremely well with good length as well. And then some of these other guys, like a Dylan Jones, is a little bit more atypical. He won Big Sky MVP, kind of playing point guard for Weber State, but projects, or there's questions about, can he transition to maybe more of a wing and play off ball when it comes to coming over to the NBA. And I think he could be an interesting fit, a little bit older though, about 22 and a half. And then Trey Alexander just is a little bit more of a raw prospect who really upped his scoring ever since Ryan Nembhard made the move from Creighton to Gonzaga after his brother made it to the NBA, but got a little bit more playmaking going on this year and a little bit of some self-creation, also a more like thin, I guess, creator that I would also say is more on the upside swing side. And honestly, none of the guys felt or like screamed Kings to me. And the previous draft history of McNair and Wilcox and these guys, except maybe Dylan Jones. But that sounds like, from my perspective, maybe a little bit more of something we'd be talking about with 45.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like most of those guys are late first round or second round. And I think it's interesting. We'll see more names pop up here over the coming weeks. Hopefully, I don't know. The Kings have kept this really tight to the vest. There was a time where Sean and I were there for like I keep saying this, the Kyle Guy draft. They had 99 prospects come through, and Kyle Guy come through 3 times to make up like for their groups of 6, and it was wild. So like 102 basic prospect workouts, with 3 of those being Kyle Guy. But like we were there and interviewing these guys all the time. The Kings have just kind of shut that pipeline off. They don't want it known who they're interviewing. And I don't know if that's a league wide thing, but definitely here in Sacramento. The other guy,
there's teams that are doing it. There's not a league mandate that forces the team to do it, so it's really incumbent upon the team whether or not they want to provide that opportunity. But if for some reason they choose not to,
yeah, totally. The other guy, in our reading and our like, like prepping for the show, Devin Carter is the other guy that the Kings have they've had in for a workout. Devin Carter is the son of Anthony Carter, former NBA player, solid scorer, rebounder, passer, for
defense.
Providence. Yeah, really good defender. I think it's Providence.
It's Providence.
Like 8.4 rebounds per game, 19.7 points, shot like 38% from 3. Impressive. And also, to kind of back up what Brenden said, more of the type of prospect that the Kings usually are looking at, the guys that are older, the guys that are more seasoned, and that you kind of know who they are and what they bring to the table. What are you guys' thoughts on the potential of Devin Carter? Let me think. 6'2" and a quarter with a 6'8" and 3/4 inch wingspan.
Yeah, I mean, size is not there, but he makes up for a lot of what he lacks in the physicality or his physical nature in terms of only being 6'2". But I mean, you watch him, you can see what's attractive about him, and it seems like there's a report out there that he's got a guarantee to go by a lottery team, maybe even 2 lottery teams. So he's definitely going to be in the green room, and it's going to be interesting to see where he falls. And I don't know that the Kings are going out there handing out guarantees, so I don't think it's necessarily them, but you can certainly see what's likable about the guy.
Yeah,
he's definitely interesting, but he scares me a little bit. Like he kind of feels very Davion to me, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But like the 3-point shooting, there's 1 year, his most recent year, where he knocks down 37.7% on just under 7 a game. Before that, he never got above 30% in his sophomore year at Providence or his freshman year at South Carolina. I don't hate the idea of taking a guard. I know a lot of fans do. I think that the roster could change very quickly. We're talking about the idea of the Kings eventually making a big swing, trying to improve the team via trade. You never know who could go out in those deals. And I think very quickly you could need guards. So it's not like I don't mind the idea of taking a guard specifically. I just, have some questions when it comes to specifically that 3-point shooting and how he would function off the ball alongside some of these guys like De'Aaron.
Yeah, I think he's interesting. I also, we talked about it today on the Insiders, with Kyle and I, that like there is a concern that, De'Aaron Fox is maybe 6'3". Malik Monk is 6'2", 6'3". Probably not. Davion Mitchell is listed at 6'1", but not 6'1". Keon Ellis is 6'3". Listed, I think 6'3.5" was his measurement at the combine, and they call him 6'5". But again, the Kings don't have a lot of big guards outside of Kevin Huerter. But then I look at this kid, and his wingspan is bigger than Kevin Huerter's, despite the fact that he's 5 inches shorter, and his defensive acumen is higher. And he's not the shooter that Kevin is, but you could still see like maybe the Kings are looking for what could amount to a Herb Jones type player, if that's how it worked out. So I'm at least like, okay, that makes sense. If you're going to stay at 13, there's probably like 3 or 4 players in this draft that would make sense, that are all like sophomores or juniors, a little bit older, that kind of stuff, that sort of tick the Wes and Monty flag. Like, hey, these guys they like to draft what they know, right? So I think we all know that. Cool. All right. Well, we'll hopefully have more information on draft coming through. we're just kind of stuck in a holding pattern with what the Kings, whether they want to release anything, whether we can get stuff from agents, stuff like that. But also, they're not having us in the building. I mean, again, the days of us interviewing Taco Fall are it seems like long gone, at least with this regime. I kind of miss it, Sean. You miss it?
Well, it definitely provides content and context to what the type of player that the Kings are looking at, or even beyond that, like it shows them doing their due diligence. It shows them that you're not really preparing for the draft. You're preparing for the NBA. You're preparing for the future of the NBA. You're showing off the resources that are available to you with a possible draft player coming in. And if you end up, signing a player 6 years down the line, you have that connection. So to me, it's nothing but good. I think the snarky person might point out and go, "Oh, you've had Dame Lillard in your building wearing a Kings jersey. You had Kawhi Leonard in your building wearing a Kings jersey. You had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and countless guys that you drafted somebody else in those places, or sometimes they went before you." But at the end of the day, like, it shows that you still had them in your building and you considered them. And the people at the time may have made a decision that didn't work, and that's okay. No one can pitch a perfect game. Revisionist history is 2020, right? So having them in your building and being able to consider them in the draft is not the end all be all of that. Like, you miss somebody in the draft, be it they went before you or after you. Russell Westbrook's another guy like that. I remember Costa Koufos came in a pre-draft workout, goes to Denver, Utah, I can't remember which at the time, and ends up on your team later on. And you have that. That's how long you've had this awareness of him. You've poked and prodded and at the guy and kind of looked at his development and seen how he's development, see how he can affect your team down the road. Like, these are all things that your fan base is aware of you doing your due diligence in your job. So, yeah, you can do it behind closed doors, but to me, it only creates more confusion around your fan base as to maybe why you make some of the moves that you do later on. And some people value it, some people don't, but I think to me, it's only good that comes from it.
Yeah, I never got to experience that at all. I guess my question on it would be, like, how useful typically is that? Is it just trying to hear them talk, really, is kind of the main thing here? Who have you worked out with before? What do you think about the roster?
Well, I think, but having them in your building, they're going through a workout with you and they're spending time with you. You're taking them to dinner the night before. I mean, there's literally getting to know figureheads within not only the front office, ownership, people on the team, people around the team. It builds a relationship there. Obviously, agents play a big part of that too. The NBA is, like, for as big as it is, it's one small family. Like, you talk about the coaching circles and how what a fraternity coaches are. Players are the same way. Front offices are the same way. Agencies are the same way. It's all this connected thread and fiber. And, not to say it's cronyism, but, oh, you played for this guy. I know this guy, this coach knows this guy, and you get all kinds of intel and background. And it's just, you can never have too much information to help you form a decision or an opinion about somebody, or, project where they could or may not be, whatever. I mean, you sit down with somebody and, whether it's the combine, from an intellectual standpoint, from a physical standpoint, and then a talent standpoint, the more you're around these people and absorb it and show off not only what they can do, but what you can do as an organization, could change the minds or some preconceived notions about your organization or about somebody as a head coach, somebody as a general manager, somebody as a scout, an owner, things like that. Like, you can change the minds. You can help control your own narrative by opening that opportunity. And then to the other point of that is, there's a lot of people who come through that won't get drafted at all, right? And they have stories. They all of a sudden have the ability to, what if they shine on the next stage? He goes on and he's on part of your summer league team, or he's on a different team, summer league team, but he stands out on a summer league team. You think of all the good stories that are out there, and yeah, there's some bad ones too, that guys that kind of wash out later on. But I also think, even from a local media standpoint, having the likes of Coleman Hawkins in your building, who's from Sacramento and chose to ultimately go back to college again for his fifth year senior, or somebody like Jalen Wells or Jared McCain, guys from Sacramento, Chima Monecki, who'd come through at one point. These are just cool things to see that you're providing an opportunity for a guy in your region who grew up a Kings fan or may root for you in your community to be able to come through. And then, Christian Terrell, who's a Sac High guy, he was one of those guys and ended up on the summer league team, and it played for the Stockton Kings. So it provides those moments where it's like Jordan Ford was one of those guys. You get to see these opportunities and see if they rise to something. If they don't, great, but you at least you left no stone uncovered, and you were able to show that you had somebody in, and he's in your community, and you're worth giving him a shot and a good look.
Yeah, Brenden, I would say too, like all the local stuff that Sean's talking about, that plays really well on like local news. It does. Like it's for me, that's always been one of the interesting things is when we have prospects coming through. I'm not really concerned about someone who is in Sacramento or not, because it doesn't always translate to the written word like it does with a TV hit. And when you get to 10 o'clock news, all of a sudden you got a nice little package that Sean's put together, video stuff of some B-roll footage and a local kid who's talking, and everyone's pulling for him to make it type deal. But I think for me, I've always liked the interview process because number one, it gives you like practice during the off season to interview new, different, like all kinds of levels of interviewees, right? Whether it's the guys who struggle to talk or the guys who are just like open books and just like spectacular. And it also, when you're doing your like draft prep, you now have more knowledge about these players than you did before. You've talked to them. You can see, whether the light bulb's on or not, whether, they're guys that like strangely big talk themselves, or who are trying to convince you that there's something that they're not. There's all of these little elements that these prospects are trying to portray to you. And I kind of just miss that avenue because I think, especially when you're young and you're coming up as a reporter, like getting an extra 3 interviews a week. I mean, three interviews 2 or 3 times a week during the draft process. It's just like reps. So even for someone who's asking questions, it's more and more reps. So I miss the whole process because I do think it gives you like sort of a broader understanding of the players that are around the league that even aren't going to be on the team that you cover. They're all over the place after the draft, and some of them never come back and you never see them again. But some of them, 3 years down the line, you go into a visiting locker room and there's somebody that you were there for his pre-draft workout. I in particular, I remember Sean asking a future Hall of Famer a question about his marijuana use in college, and that didn't go over really well.
It's fine. It's part of his story, though. It was part of his story. Yeah, and trust me, he had that question in the combine. He had the question all over the place, and it was Klay Thompson, by the way.
Just the look he gave Sean was like, "Oh, I'm going to hit you."
No, it was fine. He was ready for it. He gave a good answer. I think that's actually still on YouTube. You can find that interview on YouTube still. But
yeah, but those are the stories, like the Michael Carter Williams missing like almost every single one of his shots in a workout, and then came in and told us that he was like
Jason Kidd in his prime.
Jason Kidd in his prime. Not, and he literally said like not the dumpy like old Jason Kidd, like Jason, like really good Jason Kidd. We're like oh no. So that's what I'm saying. You start building a memory for the players that come through, the players that really, really struggle to talk, whether it's like shyness or other reasons, guys who literally just start telling you that they're the next so-and-so. And you're like, bro, I don't think you're getting drafted. And you're comparing yourself to like a, 10-time all-star. So there's a lot of like that you're trying to learn through the draft process. So anyway, okay, well, let's wrap this thing up. Let's get to the business of basketball. Hey, it's back. What do you got?
Well, we're back.
Brenden, where are you at?
I was late. Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it. It happened again. Mike Brown is under contract. That's a good thing moving forward, at least I think from our angle. I think all of us are kind of in the consensus on this. How much do you think that plays into what happens next? Be it like who the Kings chase in free agency, who the Kings chase via trade, um, whether or not Malik Monk comes back. Like all of these things seem to be part of a bigger puzzle, but having stability at the coaching position is something that I think most NBA players cherish and look forward to. So I guess like where are you guys at with this question? Brenden, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes beyond Mike too, right? Like it's Luke Laux that's with De'Aaron right now. It's Doug Christie and Leandro Barbosa that are with Domas right now overseas, or were previously. Like I think it's about everybody on the roster, and I think that they have their staples implemented: 5 on offense, 5 on defense. We know the style of play that this team likes to run with, and obviously a high paced form of basketball with De'Aaron Fox being the one out there running everything through Domas. And you could alter things as more guys come in, but I think that they have an identity. They have an idea of how they want to play the game, and that makes it easier to go find pieces that may fit into that. And I think it also makes it an easier pitch to whether it be free agents, if that's Malik Monk trying to bring him back. I would imagine that he's happy that Mike Brown is around. They've always seemed to have a very honest and good relationship between the two of them there. But I think that having an idea of just knowing what you can expect with the Kings, I think is what comes with Mike still being around. And that sense of stability and identity, I think is really valuable in one of these first steps.
Yeah, I certainly there's a optimism, there's a positivity there of having that, and not having something hang over the organization as a question mark or what have you. But I also think when it comes to guys, and I've said this before, like somebody like Malik, like it matters to a degree, but I don't think it matters. Like I think it might get overplayed a little bit. Like I don't think it's this huge like unknown or this like thing that they factor in when making a decision. I think ultimately they're going to go, for most people who are dealing with free agency, it's where am I going to go and find the most security, most money? I'm going to worry about who I'm going to play with. The playing style certainly matters, right? You look at, like, if I'm a free agent, and I've talked to people around the league that would kind of back this up a bit, but it's more so than like who the head coach is. What is their, like, who's around my position, right? What does their track record look like in terms of guys who've had career seasons under this playing style, who have come before me under the same playing style, and who can I try to follow a little bit of a pattern there, like find a niche, find what I do. Because you look at guys who can play a certain role, and find ultimately the most, it comes down to security, longevity within the league. So if I'm on this team and this coach, whether they change their, the coach mid-season or 3 years from now or 4 years from now, whenever, does the playing style, does the type of embodiment of the team that they have around them, does that carry forth if the head coach isn't there, right? Because anything can happen within the next 6 months to 6 years. Like it can change. So I think ultimately it's something that they factor. It's something that they have to, keep in mind, but it's not this, if you're looking at a pie chart, I think it's probably 15%, maybe a little bit more than that. I don't think it's as much as maybe we might like to think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I get you, but it's part of the puzzle. And it is
Right.
like you're looking at this season coming up and understanding that the Kings missed the playoffs this last year, and the goal is to get back to the playoffs. And the last thing you want is instability, and the last thing you want is drama breaking out mid-season, a coach losing his job, or just like chaos happening and just wasting away a season. So I think it does play into the whole conversation. But I also think look, there are other pieces. I think guys who are already here, who have already, like a guy like Sabonis, who is already locked up for another, 4 years moving forward. Those are the ones where you're like, okay, a guy like Muck is going to look at it and go, okay, I don't like the instability, but I can probably look past it if the money's right. a guy like Sabonis can look at this and go, are like, we can't do this again. Like or Fox, like I don't want to play for, that would be like Fox's 5th coach as a player in Sacramento. So I do think it matters. I just don't know how much, like what Sean said. But I still think it's part of the puzzle. And I look, I think having it done and having it in the rear view mirror, I think it does matter. Like there is stability. You can point to stability. You can point to a coach that has won and that people like to play for, and it's never a bad thing. The more positivity and more positive things you have to pitch as to a free agent, I think the better. That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Do we have any final thoughts?
I'm a baseball guy now, actually.
Oh no.
I'm getting into it this year. I'm really locked into the Giants. I will say the River Cats have been fun. It was fun when Blake Snell came into town. Elliot Ramos got on base 6 times the other day. I hope Luis Matos gets straight a little bit in Sacramento, but I'm locked into baseball. I've been playing the show with Chris Franke and Matt George. We're all locked in there. I'm becoming a baseball guy.
Because of the video game?
That is what sparked it, yes.
Has it helped you?
Yes, very much so. I mean, I think that like when I was a kid, that 2K helped me learn basketball, or at least get familiar with the rosters and the guys' strengths and stuff like that. And I would say the same thing's happening right now for sure.
Did you create your own player?
I did. I think, yeah, I did. Coyote Trout. It's Mike Trout's long lost cousin.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still surprised that Luis Matos got sent back down.
Me too. He did start.
A little bummed by that.
Yeah. Well, you could be an A's fan. It could be worse.
Yeah.
Just say it.
For sure.
We do, like, on that note, let's see. We have a couple of things coming up. If you guys have kids out there, look, both De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis have basketball camps here in Sacramento. So if you want to do youth basketball camps, like, you can find that pretty easily. Go to Fox's stuff or Domantas's like Instagram. I'm sure you can find links. But that would be pretty incredible if you were a kid and were able to go hang out with those guys. Both very, very good dudes and kind of chill. Outside of that, we've got the draft on the 26th and the 27th, followed by the opening of free agency on June 30th. That June 30th is the day that we'll probably learn the fate of Malik Monk and the Sacramento Kings, like where he's going to go, whether he's going to be back in Sacramento or not. We might hear something a little bit earlier because the day the NBA finals end, teams can officially start negotiating with their own free agents. And so that would at least open a small window where we might learn something. But again, I think Monk and his folks are going to want to get as much information as possible. Outside of that, we also have the California Classic, which it's different this year. What is it? The 6th, 7th, and 9th?
9th.
Something like that.
I think
they're
the 10th
also
still in SF.
Yeah, they're going to simultaneously play in the Bay Area as well. I think they're going to start expanding out the California Classic to include maybe a couple more teams. So that's always fun to go to. I know, I think San Antonio will be here in Sacramento, although I would not, for anyone out there, expect the great Victor Wembanyama to play. I would point out the Spurs have the 4th and 8th pick in the NBA draft. So there's potential for like some pretty high end talent to be here in Sacramento. And also, I think it's Charlotte is the other team, right? And Charlotte should have a top tier pick. I don't know. Do we have anything else? Did I miss anything there? Summer League starting in Vegas. After that, I'm actually going to be on vacation the 22nd through the 29th. I'll be back in time for free agency. I will miss the night of the draft. But my guys here will have you all covered on social media and everything else for draft coverage. And I don't shut off, so I'll have my laptop with me, and if I got anything, I'll send it out like I did last year when we had breaking news leading up to the draft and breaking news leading up to free agency.
Where are you going?
I am going to Cabo.
Yeah,
so
buddy.
Yeah, we're taking the boys and one of their friends, and we're going with another family. That's the reason why it's happening that week. The other family has timeshares, and so this is the week they schedule it, and there's not a whole lot I could do about it if we're going to go with them. So not a big deal, but that way I'm just going to be gone during a really busy week. But I mean, again, we're not getting a lot of FaceTime with these guys early on, and I'll be back in time for free agency. And then I have one other short trip to Cabo later, in July. So
2 Cabo trips. What do you have, a timeshare down there? What's going on?
The timeshare is with some friends that they have a timeshare, and they always get us a good deal for the place that we stay in. The other is we have friends through those friends that have a friend that owns a mansion in Cabo, and they get access to it, and they invited us and a couple other couples to go with them down to this giant house for like 4 days. So
Wow,
it should be fun without the boys. That's without the boys. So we normally would not go to Cabo twice.
Sure. He said mansion. Sure.
Have your passport ready.
Hey, the going to the timeshare thing is like all inclusive. That's always fun. Like Brenden, we could the 3 of us should go do a trip.
A live show would be great.
Just do like all inclusive and just hang out and have a good time. Yeah.
What's happening with that live show? The meet and greet.
Yeah.
You weren't there last week, Sean? Yeah, it was last weekend. You just missed it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I was going to say, like, we can do, I'll talk to you guys. We'll see if we can do an off the record with the KINGSBEAT virtual happy hour next week, and then maybe the meet and greet in July. So I don't know. We'll see.
July's pretty busy month. I'd rather do it in August, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, once we get past Vegas, there's nothing going on.
Sure there is. You got USA basketball. You've got
all kinds of. Are you going to go down to Vegas for USA basketball?
I don't know.
Yeah, because Kings aren't going to be represented. So
no, but got some Warriors, got some various different storylines that exist around USA basketball.
Are you guys feeling big trade, or what's just sort of the wind blowing for you guys right now? What do you think?
Nothing.
Kings?
I mean, I expect them to be active, if that counts. Here, but smoke around Levine or Ingram, which more so seems from the teams they're currently on, potentially wanting to move on. I don't know that I love either one of those ideas. I mean, I think things change quickly and guys could become available. Like, is Jimmy Butler a conversation? How do we feel about paying him after the fact? I love Jimmy Butler for what it's worth. Just as a guy, I don't know that he's a great fit when it comes to the timeline. But point being, I think they're going to have a lot of options, and I think they're going to be active.
Okay.
Well, and now the spotlight is shined brighter on that front office and what they do because the Mike Brown thing is out of the way. That took a lot of the oxygen in the room, but now with months left in the offseason, with a draft and free agency and trade, like it's going to just shine brighter on that front office to do more than what they did. So and try to improve this product. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. But it doesn't all just end with the draft and free agent. Like there's so many months. There's months left. Like you can still accomplish a lot.
I agree. All right. I think they'll be active. I think it'll be a fun couple of weeks that we've got coming up, and I think the Kings will look considerably different mid-July. But maybe they won't, because we've thought this before and nothing happened. All right, so that's going to do it for this edition of the KIngsBEAT podcast. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you don't mind. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Go to the KIngsBEAT, become a subscriber, become a premium subscriber to get access to everything that we do here. We will have a lot more content coming up, all kinds of good stuff. So we are a Blue Wire podcast, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks. I didn't mention that early in the show, but yeah,
Did you get your picks in during the NBA Finals?
I did not. The first week I did during the last round, and it wasn't pretty. Like ugly.
One game down.
One game down.
I wonder
Quickly.
if somebody had like the assist line for Luka Doncic. That
was crazy. I actually
he
won
only had
yesterday.
one.
Okay,
Oh, you
quickly.
You won?
Just a little bit. $10.
Oh,
Okay.
All right. What's your prediction going forward in the finals?
4-1. This is
4-1.
Yeah, I picked Celtics in 5.
Damn, we all picked Celtics in 5. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they're far and away the best team in the league, and giving Dallas a win is just because didn't know how maybe effective Porzingis might be. It's hard to sweep a team in the finals. I mean, given the road that Dallas has had, it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I thought this first game was just about what, maybe not totally what I expected. I did expect it to be kind of a one-sided victory for Boston. But it seemed like it was out of hand for Dallas for basically the entire game,
which sucked for a viewing experience,
right?
To be honest,
Yeah.
like out watching with friends, and by the end of the first quarter, it's like, what is happening?
I think watching the first quarter was exciting because like Porzingis healthy and on display was incredible to watch for like 7 minutes. And then it was like, oh, well, now the game's over. Like those blocks he had in transition, like the 28-footer, like all of it was like, holy cow, this dude just adds a totally different element. And for those of us on the West Coast that don't watch Boston all the time, it was interesting to watch that team go through the playoffs without Porzingis. And then when you add him to the mix, just the element that he brings, you're like, oh, this team is too good. The team is better than everybody, and I don't think anyone can hang with them. So,
well, and that dunk by Jaylen Brown, by the way, was spectacular.
Nasty. I can't believe
they're going to have their team together for a while too. Like I think this could be the start of something.
They could win 2 or 3. I could see that. Yeah, I definitely could see that. So sweet. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Kings Beat podcast. We'll be back next week. We'll have all kinds of stuff going on. Keep you updated on the latest on the Sacramento Kings. Thanks for tuning in. So for Fox 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast, I am James Hammy, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. See you soon.